This evening, first up, cracking down on runaway US dollar outflows. President Ali unveils 9 sweeping foreign exchange controls. Will the measures bring stability or new challenges for businesses? Plus, the time for decisive leadership is now. Home Affairs Minister Oneidge Walrond issues a zero-tolerance call on corruption inside the Guyana Police Force. Also, no ballot access for Forward Guyana. The Court of Appeal rules GECOM acted lawfully in excluding the small party from September's election. Meanwhile, PNCR regroups. The party's Central Executive Committee meets for the first time since its election defeat, reaffirming leader Aubrey Norton and charting a path forward. And in Brazil, fury over a Wild West law. Cash bonuses for police who kill alleged criminals. Human rights group says it could fuel deadly abuses. These stories and more coming up on Headline News Update. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for October 2nd, 2025. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, President Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali on Tuesday unveiled 9 sweeping measures to tighten Ghana's foreign exchange controls amid a sharp rise in US dollar outflows, which have surged from US $332 million in 2024 to $1.2 billion so far in 2025. The new standard operating procedures to be enforced by the Guyana Revenue Authority, GRA, commercial banks, and the Bank of Guyana are aimed at improving transparency, preventing capital flight, and stabilizing the financial sector. Among the measures, importers will now be required to submit invoices, bills of lading, and proof of GRA compliance before banks release foreign exchange.
Any requests for forex by any customer to commercial banks for the importation of goods to Guyana would require every customer to provide the commercial bank with a copy of the commercial invoice, on the basis of which the commercial bank may release the foreign exchange to the said customer. However, we know that there are challenges with this. One is that sometimes it's under or over invoicing, so we have to have a mechanism that verify those invoices. And then we have to have a clearance mechanism for persons who are not submitting the invoices, so that the second tranche or second demand is impacted based on your action in fulfilling the first requirement.
Banks will also be mandated to verify documents with the central bank, while stricter penalties will be imposed for inflated invoicing and related party transactions. Commercial banks must further ensure personal credit cards are used only for individual transactions and not for business purposes.
Each commercial bank is requested to ensure that personal credit cards are strictly used for personal transaction and not to be used for any settling of business obligation. So we don't want somebody to be settling a 1 million or 300,000 transaction or buying a fancy vehicle for $600,000 US for a company with a credit card.
Additional safeguards include requiring oil and gas service companies registered under local content laws to maintain local foreign currency accounts and declaration of foreign currency taken out of Guyana, and the establishment of a single window system at the central bank to facilitate reconciliation of transactions across agencies. The president stated that these measures will be implemented to safeguard the country's interests.
And this is an effort to monitor and ensure that we have enough foreign currency in the market. Of course, we are in a position where we can clear the foreign currency, but we have to also protect Guyana's interests.
The measures were announced following a high-level meeting with the governor of the Bank of Guyana, Dr. Gobin Ganga, the Commissioner General of GRA, Godfrey Stacia, commercial bank representatives, and Minister of Public Service and Government Efficiency, Zulfikar Ali. President Ali stated that the interagency task force will continue to monitor foreign exchange demand and enforce these reforms, with commercial banks pledging their support for the measures, which they believe will alleviate some of their operational challenges. In other news, Minister of Home Affairs Oneidge Walrond has called for stronger discipline, integrity, and accountability within the Guyana Police Force, declaring that the time for decisive leadership is now. Speaking to the force's executive leadership team and commanders on Wednesday, Minister Walrond emphasized that while the government has made record investments in infrastructure, mobility, technology, and training since 2020, integrity and discipline must underpin effective policing. Corruption must be dealt with firmly, she noted. Zero tolerance should be shown. Do not look the other way, she warned, urging commanders to lead by example and strengthen discipline to rebuild public trust. Highlighting new challenges such as border security, increased connectivity, and demands from a growing economy, the minister emphasized the need for resources to deliver tangible results in community safety and crime prevention. This is the moment for decisive leadership. The people will not wait and neither will I, she declared, pledging her full support to the force in its efforts to become a professional, respected, and trusted institution. The newly appointed Minister of Home Affairs signaled a clear shift in the administration's approach to law enforcement, one that places integrity and accountability at the core of policing. With her firm call for zero tolerance and corruption and a demand for leadership by example, the Home Affairs Minister has set the tone for a renewed era of discipline within the Guyana Police Force. Moving on, the Court of Appeal earlier today dismissed the Forward Guyana Movement FGM's appeal challenging the Guyana Elections Commission GECOM decision to exclude the party from the ballots in Region 7, 8, and 9 during September 1st, 2025 elections. Chancellor Acting Justice Roxanne George ruled that the appeal had no merit and upheld the High Court's cross order requiring the appeal's expenses to be paid by November 14, 2025. The case stemmed from a previous ruling by Chief Justice Acting Narendra Singh, who affirmed that GECOM acted lawfully in excluding FGM and the Assembly for Liberty and Prosperity, ALP, from constituencies where they did not submit candidate lists. FGM had argued that the exclusion was unlawful and unconstitutional, claiming it undermined inclusivity and representation in smaller or remote communities. Chancellor George clarified that the court had no jurisdiction over this appeal, noting that ballot access is limited to parties contesting specific constituencies. She emphasized that voters' rights were not affected, as GECOM did not prevent individuals from voting or from standing as candidates for FGM. The FGM and ALP declined to participate in these constituencies, and GECOM did not misinterpret, misapply, or violate any law in preparing the ballots, she said. The ruling reaffirmed that GECOM acted in accordance with the Constitution and its procedures in managing the September elections. Stick around when we return. Losing the lead, keeping the leader. PNCR rallies around Norton despite election setback, and ministry launches citywide cleanup campaign in Georgetown.
Gentlemen, it's the moment you've been waiting for. Step right up because it's time for Digicel's $12 million punch and win. Top up with just $1,000 or more for a shot at winning up to $2 million weekly. That's right, up to $2 million weekly. 6 weeks, $2 million per week. Will you be one of our lucky winners? There's only one way to find out. Top up, punch, and win. Only with Digicel. Digicel, better connected.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. How smart make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl, forget things. problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. The Central Executive Committee of the People's National Congress Reform on Wednesday held its first full meeting since the 2025 general elections to review the party's strategic direction and outline its immediate course of action. The meeting addressed recent developments, including the resignation of certain members, and confirmed the elevation of 2 new members to the Central Executive Committee. In a statement, the committee reaffirmed its full confidence in party leader Aubrey Norton, emphasizing that he can only be removed at a duly convened Congress in accordance with the party's constitution. The Central Executive Committee rejected suggestions of internal conflict, stressing that public grievances by a few individuals will not derail the PNCR's rebuilding efforts. The party said it remains focused on strengthening its organizational structure and expanding community outreach as part of its ongoing commitment to national development and the advancement of the Guyanese people. The People's National Congress Reform, a major partner in the Partnership for National Unity coalition, suffered a major blow at Ghana's September general and regional elections, losing not only to the governing People's Progressive Party, but also its status as the country's main opposition to We Invest in Nationhood, a party established less than 6 months before the polls. In other news, the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development launched a citywide cleanup campaign in Georgetown on Tuesday evening as part of the government's National Beautification Project. Leading the initiative were Minister Priya Manik-Chan, Minister within the Ministry Pauline Sukai, Director General Anand Prasad, and other senior officials. As part of the exercise, Minister Manik-Chan visited Stabrook Market after 6 p.m. to engage with vendors on the challenges of waste management.
Trying to figure out how we could sustain, not have a massive cleanup every couple months, but how we could sustain.
Vendors highlighted their commitment to maintaining cleanliness, but pointed to limited resources and inadequate disposal facilities as major hurdles. The campaign marks the beginning of intensified efforts to restore and sustain cleanliness across the capital, aligning with the government's vision of a safer, more sustainable environment. The ministry pledged continued collaboration with vendors, residents, and stakeholders to strengthen waste management practices in communities. Don't go away after the break. Over 90 people believed buried under rubble after Indonesia's school collapsed, and French Union calls nationwide strike over Macron's planned budget cuts.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the moment you've been waiting for. Step right up because it's time for Digicel's $12 million punch and win. Top up with just $1,000 or more for a shot at winning up to $2 million weekly. That's right, up to $2 million weekly. 6 weeks, $2 million per week. Will you be one of our lucky winners? There's only one way to find out. Top up, punch, and win. Only with Digicel. Digicel, better connected.
Good girl, forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. The UN Security Council has authorized a 12-month gang suppression force in Haiti, replacing the multinational security support mission. With up to 5,550 personnel, the force will target gangs threatening civilians and institutions. CARICOM members welcome the move, while China, Pakistan, and Russia abstain over mandate and funding concerns. Meanwhile, in South America, outrage is mounting in Rio de Janeiro as a controversial law offering police cash bonuses for killing alleged criminals sparked widespread criticism. Al Jazeera's Monica Yannick reports.
A stroll along Rio de Janeiro's seafront for a birthday picnic, taking a moment to celebrate life. A sharp contrast to the city's sprawling favelas where these women live. Shootouts between the police and drug gangs are a brutal part of life in these communities. But often, it's innocent civilians who pay the price. 3 months ago, Liliani's 17-year-old son was caught in the crossfire.
Police shot my son Gabriel 5 times in the back as he was going to fulfill his lifetime dream of performing as a professional dancer.
Liliani found solace with 2 other women who, like her, lost their children to police violence. Now they've joined forces with other mothers to stop the Wild West bill, recently approved by Rio state legislators. It grants bonuses ranging from 10% to 150% of an officer's salary for neutralizing criminals.
It's an incentive for police to shoot and kill without accountability. They already do it without bonus. Imagine what happens if they are paid extra.
Jaqueline de Oliveira's pregnant daughter was shot as she was taking a cake to her aunt's house.
None of the families were compensated for their losses, and now they want to pay an extermination bonus to policemen. It's insane. Who will protect us?
Back in the 1990s, a similar bonus was offered. Left-wing legislator Carlos Mink helped strike it down after proving its deadly consequences.
We examined 1,200 autopsies and found 2/3 of those killed by police had been executed. Did crime stop? On the contrary, today, 40% of Rio is controlled by gangs and militias. Why bring back a bill that already failed?
Right-wing legislator Alexandre Knoplock, who voted for the bill, says it reflects the will of most voters.
Ask 10 people on the street if they support neutralizing criminals who kill and rape. I bet my job 7 will say yes. The bonuses are for police who risk their lives to restore order to a city controlled by gangs.
In front of Rio's state legislature, these mothers say fighting violence with more violence won't bring their children back. They argue the real issue is not just crime, but corruption. Police and politicians, they say, profit from the very gangs they claim to fight.
The governor of the state of Rio de Janeiro may back the Wild West bonus, but he's expected to veto it to avoid the political cost. But lawmakers here say they can and will override his veto, despite the protests. Monica Yanakiev, Al Jazeera, Rio de Janeiro.
Around 90 people are still trapped under rubble 2 days after a prayer hall at a boarding school collapsed in Indonesia. Al Jazeera's Hamza Mohammed reports.
A frantic search for survivors in this boarding school reduced to rubble. For parents, every hour feels like a lifetime.
They haven't told us anything until today. The search and rescue team told us to wait, but are going to help them. They've set up a volunteer team.
They said they are still working on it, but we haven't heard the latest update so far. It's not like we don't trust them, but we just need transparency. We do not want anything else but information. The last update was released yesterday late afternoon.
Officials are investigating whether ongoing construction could have caused the collapse. Families crowd around notice boards, desperate for any information.
They should clear the rubble as soon as possible. We are ready to help, but we haven't reached an agreement with the search and rescue team.
Authorities say dozens of people are unaccounted for. But heavy machinery cannot be used freely, as it could bring down what's left of the building.
We're focusing on organizing the division of teams. We are arranging them into small groups, given that the space at the site of operations to reach the survivors is very limited.
For those still waiting, time is slipping away. And every slab lifted could bring either heartbreak or a miracle. Hamza Mohammed, Al Jazeera.
Finally, France's main trade unions are calling for nationwide strikes on Thursday, Al Jazeera's Natasha Butler reports.
It's early morning in the Paris suburb of Mitry. Sami Sharifi's getting ready. He's worked for France's state rail company SNCF for nearly 2 decades, first as a train driver, now as a unionist. He says workers are fed up with years of government budget cuts.
We've had 40 years of liberal politics focused on making money, and that's not what public services are for. It's about having hospitals, schools and transport for people. With trains, the government only invests in profitable rail lines, not the local ones, nor in infrastructure.
Sami leaves for his commute to Paris. He says politicians are disconnected from the reality of what people face.
Some rail workers have really low salaries and can't pay their bills. Working unsociable hours leads to a lot of divorce. The situation's so critical that we've had cases of people who work in the day and sleep rough or in their cars at night.
Fed up and angry. A wave of worker protests has shaken France in recent weeks, and another is expected Thursday. Demonstrators say President Emmanuel Macron's policies unfairly favour the wealthy, and some MPs agree. Last month, far-right and left-wing MPs brought down former Prime Minister François Bayrou over austerity cuts. Now they're threatening to do the same to his replacement, Sébastien Lecornu, unless he delivers what they call a fair budget.
Merci.
Lecornu needs to deliver a budget that can address France's ballooning debt, but also win the backing of his political opponents. They want him to roll back on spending cuts and raise taxes for the rich. So far, though, he's refusing to do either. His political survival is clearly at risk. The political crisis is tiring the public and affecting businesses like the restaurant industry.
A restaurant meal is part of the French way of life, but it's an expense and people are being careful with money. They're worried. The political instability also means protests, so for everyone, these are challenging times.
With a looming possible fall of a third Prime Minister in just over a year, what comes next is impossible to predict. France's political system may be derailing, but Sami's determined to keep his campaign for better paying conditions on track. Natasha Butler, Al Jazeera, Paris.
This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. And that's it with 2 headline news for this Thursday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for a rebroadcast and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other.